So tonight's topic is we refuse to accept the status quo. We're about to enter into what's called the 9 days. This week on Tuesday night, Wednesday is Rosh Chodesh Av. Rosh Chodesh Av begins the 9 days, culminating in Tisha Be'av, culminating in the darkest period of time for the Jewish people, which is when the temples were destroyed. It's actually the original time when the spies were decided that they can't go into Israel, and the nation of Israel mourned. So I'm going to show you now, I'm going to share the screen. We find something fascinating in the Talmud Tractate Ta'anit, 30b. Look at the inside in the screen in front of you. A rabbi say, somebody who does melacha, work on Tisha Be'av, on the 9th day of Av, and does not mourn for Jerusalem, which was destroyed close to 2,000 years ago, doesn't see the joy. I'm going to skip out one word. From here, Rabbi say, the third line, whoever mourns for Jerusalem, he merits and sees its simcha, which means it's rebuilding, its happiness. Someone who does not mourn for Jerusalem, does not see the joy of Tisha B'av. So what does this mean? Seemingly it means like this. If you mourn for Jerusalem, if you are genuinely perturbed and upset that Jerusalem is not around, you will merit to see its rebuilding. The problem is it doesn't say you will merit to see its rebuilding. It says merits in the present tense. Zocheh veroeh b'simchata. He or she merits now to see its joy. And that doesn't make any sense. If you would have told me that if you mourn for Jerusalem, you will in the future see its rebuilding, see the happiness and joy that are going to happen when the third temple is going to be rebuilt, then I understand. But if you tell me that you merit now and you see its simcha, its happiness, this I don't understand. Let's move to the next source, the next question. From the last page in the Talmud Tractate, Makot tells us a story. It says like this, Shuv pa'am achat. It happened one time. Hayu olim Yerushalayim, there were some rabbis going up with Rabbi Akiva to Jerusalem. Kivan shehigiu lahar Tzofim. As soon as they arrived to the mountain of Tzofim, Mount Scopus, karu bigdeihem, the rabbis tore their clothes. Why did they tear their clothes? Because just then Jerusalem was being destroyed. The Temple Mount was destroyed, so they see the destruction of the temple. But just when they went past them, they saw a fox which was coming out of the Holy of Holies. So the rabbis, when they saw that a fox is coming out of the Holy of Holies, they started to cry. The Rabbi Akiva was laughing. Amru lo. So they said to him, why are you laughing? So he said to them, the Jewish way of answering is answering a question with a question. Why are you laughing? So they told him, a place where it says that someone who's not a priest, not a Kohen, dies by going there. Now foxes are there, we're not going to cry. So they said to him, why are you laughing? So he said, that's why I'm laughing, because I know that the prophecy of Zechariah is going to be fulfilled now, where it says that the rebuilding of the temple is going to happen. Question is, why did really Rabbi Akiva laugh? Why couldn't he just tell them, I'm not laughing because I'm happy that the Jerusalem will be rebuilt in the future? The answer to all this is because we do not accept the status quo. It's a beautiful answer. You remember the story of Joseph with his brothers. So when Joseph was sold into slavery, the brothers took his coat and they dipped it into blood of a goat, and they came to their father and they said, do you recognize this? This is the blood of your son. He's been devoured by an animal. And he started to mourn. But the verse in front of you, right in front of you, says, look at the screen, all Jacob's sons and daughters came to comfort him. He refused to be comforted. And he said, I will go down on account of my son as a mourner to the grave. Vayev koto aviv, his father cried for him. Says Rashi, a beautiful, beautiful Rashi, Vayama'en litnachem, right in front of you. He refused to be comforted. Why did he refuse to be comforted? You know, you have something called Shiva. When somebody passes away, God forbid, Rachmana litzlan, so the family sits Shiva. You mourn for 7 days, and then 30 days, and then a year you say Kaddish, and after a while, you know, you comforted, you are consoled. Why over here did Jacob refuse to be consoled? Says Rashi, it's from the Medrash. No one can accept tanchumim, consolation, for a person who is really alive but believed to be dead. God put in the nature of a person that is like sort of a decree that if the person is dead, then he'll be forgotten from the heart. But if the person's still alive, then he or she will not be forgotten at all. What does this mean? You see, Joseph was really alive. So for 22 years, Jacob felt the same pain. On day number 1, he felt that same pain. On year number 22 years later. You see, that pain was deep, deep inside of him. That grief that he felt was the same grief. It wasn't, Joseph didn't die and Jacob didn't know that, but in his heart, he must have felt. And therefore, he lived with Joseph for 22 years. You see, here's the story with Jerusalem. Somebody who mourns for the destruction of the temple, not will merit in the future, merits now to see its simcha. Why? Because the fact that we are unhappy, the fact that we are sad, the fact that we are mourning, the fact that we fast, we don't eat, we don't drink, and we cry on the floor for the destruction of the temple means that even though the destruction of the temple happened close to 2,000 years ago, we still live with it. We still feel the pain. So Jerusalem is alive inside of us. You know why Rabbi Akiva laughed? Because when he saw the Chachamim, the rabbis crying, he realized that Jerusalem is still very much alive inside of them. They are living with Jerusalem. And therefore, right now, we are meriting to be in its joy, it's alive inside of us. We don't accept the status quo. What God's doing to us in this current exile with the COVID-19 and the pandemic and all the terrible, terrible tsaras that are happening, it's all as a result of the temple being destroyed close to 2,000 years ago because we are in exile since then. And the fact that we don't accept the status quo is actually a reason to rejoice because it means Jerusalem is still alive with us. Napoleon, 1700 years after the temple was destroyed, was one time in Jerusalem on Tisha Be'av, and he sees people mourning and crying and upset, and he asked somebody, why are the Jews crying? And they said to him, because they're upset that their temple has been destroyed. And he asked, when was it destroyed? And they told him 1700 years ago. And Napoleon said, if there could be a nation that is mourning and crying for the destruction that happened so many years ago, they will surely merit to see its rebuilding. We hope, we pray. We pray for Jerusalem probably like 70, 80 times a week. Every day we mention multiple times in our prayer. That vision, we daven, we pray, facing to Jerusalem. We've lived with Jerusalem for so many years. We hope, we pray that Jerusalem is going to be rebuilt today and end this pandemic, end this COVID-19, end this crisis, end this economic crisis. But the message is, Kol hamitabel al Yerushalayim, Zoche achshav, in the present tense, b'simchata, because it means that pain is deep inside our heart. That's a good sign. It means we are alive. We live with it. Can you imagine? Had we not felt the pain, if we don't feel it, it means we've forgotten about it. It means we moved on. It means Jerusalem, great, 2,000 years ago, we felt the pain, but we don't feel it anymore. No, we feel the pain today. May these days, the 9 days, be turned into the greatest joyful days, and may Mashiach come now, and may we not have to fast on Tisha B'av. Have a good night, have a good evening. Laila Tov.